This episode is brought to you by Facebook. So you were scrolling on Marketplace, and there it was, the bike you'd been searching for. You sent a message, and it turned out the seller was super chatty, kind of funny, and an avid cyclist. The next thing you know, you're in a cycling crew. Well, a community cycling group. The thing about Facebook, you might find more than what you're looking for. From a browse to a bike ride, this summer find more on Facebook.
Hello.
Look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
The Devil Wears Prada 2 is now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
We are digital, we are downloadable, we are streamable.
The fashion event of the year is certified fresh.
Pull yourself together. We have work to do.
Critics say it's smart and witty and the perfect sequel.
That's all.
Get runway ready for The Devil Wears Prada 2 on Disney Plus and Hulu. Rated PG-13.
One of the things that I share with teachers is a quote from someone that I got my master's with. And she said, "I'm a really good teacher till the kids get involved." And it's just like, yes, that exactly, like we plan, but it's never going to go as planned if we are doing all of the talking. It's just like, it's just not. So we need to think of teaching as a cycle or even a zigzag, where we're planning based on what we know from the last time we interacted with our students. And then we teach, and then we adjust, and then we plan again.
Welcome back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. It's Andrew. I am so excited to let you all know that we are now in the top 40 best liberal arts podcasts list that got sent to me, and we're number 3. So thank you all for listening to the podcast. And I just really appreciate that you keep spreading the word. So please make sure you follow us on social media. Instagram is Ivory Tower Boiler Room, TikTok, Dr.Andrew and please review us on Apple, Spotify. It really, all of it helps. So I hope you just enjoy this episode. And as always, remember, there is an ad-free version on our Patreon. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. It's Dr. Andrew Rimby. So you all know I love literature. You know I love teaching literature. I'm passionate about literacy, and I am so excited to be joined with a literacy consultant, Patty McGee, who you're going to learn is an expert when it comes to not only working with thousands of K-12 language arts teachers nationwide, but also being a teacher who really focuses as an educator, author, consultant on why teaching writing is effective, efficient, how to emphasize approaches that really center on her experience of just why literature, why writing, why all of this matters in our life, and especially at a young age, but as we'll discuss in this episode, going into adulthood, which I have statistics ready, and I know she knows the statistics as well. And they might be very surprising to you. It might fill you with a little despair, but hopefully I know our conversation will provide optimism, especially with all of the work she's doing. And you're going to learn, how you could book her for consulting, but also a book that I really love that she just came out with Tim Donahue is called Not Your Granny's Grammar. I love that alliteration, Granny's Grammar, an innovative approach to meaningful and engaging grammar instruction. So Patty, welcome to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, so first, I'm just curious, what was your experience yourself with literature, like at a young age?
So at a young age, that young age was the 70s. So there were very limited resources, books for kids at that time. There was the Nancy Drews and the Hardy Boys and the Little House books, like that sort of thing. But I would devour them as a kid. And whenever there was a book that was new or like not part of the series and it was in the library, I was just thrilled. So my mom was so good about bringing us to the library, making sure we had books. In fact, like the books I was unable to read yet because I didn't have the skill, like the Narnia books, she would actually pay us to sit and listen to her read to us. It was 25 cents every time. And she loved the Narnia books and she wanted us to love them too. And so that's like part of our allowance was you can make 25 cents when you come and sit and listen to whatever book we were in the Narnia series.
I love that. Like
Yeah.
she was building in this type of economy for
Yeah.
literacy for you
Yeah.
to be engaged as an audience. Instead of
Yes.
you paying to hear, she was paying you.
Yes, exactly. And I
Well,
kept thinking, like, I'd be here for free, but I do want the money.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I'm so glad you mentioned the public library
Yeah.
because something that I always poll my students in college the first week is I ask them first, like, this over the break, like, how many of you read a book for pleasure? A third, maybe.
Mhm.
How many of you have been to a bookstore during the break? Again, maybe a third. How many of you have been to the library? Maybe two out of the 25 students. And the public library, it's just so enriching. Like, what do you remember about the library? Like, what was it, that introduction to it, like that stuck with you?
Oh, it's interesting because it's very sensory. The
Mm.
what stuck with me. In the little town that I grew up in, the library was actually an old train car that they converted into a library. So I remember, the wood smell and the almost musty, but musty sounds like a negative word. It was really like earthy, I should say. And the smell of the books, like we all love, a brand new book and what they smell like, but also a well-read book. And like the creakiness
Mhm.
of just walking in the library from the floors and it was just a very sensory experience and one that was allowed me to just browse. It wasn't, I was raised, and I can certainly say it was a free range childhood, but you were like sent out, and it was like come back when you hear the whistle. But it was different in a library. It was
Mhm.
I was able to roam. I mean, it wasn't that big, obviously, being a train car, but I was able to roam and search for things that appealed to me, which was very different than running around with the neighborhood kids. That was play. This was more solitary and personal, and it just felt so good. It felt like a place I belonged right away.
It is so belonging, yes.
Mhm.
And as a child, like I look back and the building that the library was in, now they have a new, like a lot of
Same.
towns renovated and all of that. But where it was a small building, but to me, like as a child, that immensity of size doesn't matter. Like, right? Because you're just seeing it from, like you said, a sensory perspective. And like, where else can you get get a card? You don't have to pay money. You're
Yeah.
just, I was going through like the audio or the then cassette tapes in the 90s. And then I would get like the books in the cassette tape and
Yeah.
listen
Hmm.
and read along and then make my way to the young adult, right? To the adult. It was like the crafts. I remember like being signed up by my parents for the crafts with like, the different librarians.
Yeah.
And um you're right. It's the intellectual, the growth that happens there. It is solitary, but you're also part of that space that's been created, that liminal, right? They call it a third space.
Yeah.
Um, And I really keep trying to just amplify it because I think these spaces are not embedded in our everyday lives the way that like the library is. And like,
Yeah.
yes, I love bookstores, but when you're a child, a
Yeah.
$15 book, that's not
Yes.
something that you're just, maybe some
Exactly.
have a credit card, but
Yeah.
it's nice where you don't have to like, you know, to me, a bookstore is so wonderful, but it's also, I'm really, um, like, I love that so many have cafes now and they've turned them into third spaces, but like, I really now only buy a book if I know I'm going to annotate or I'm going to really sit with it.
Mhm.
But like, a contemporary novel, I don't really know exactly if I'm going to like it. So, yes, I love Patty that you also you share that experience. But like, so okay, you really at a young age got into like Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys. Like I remember the Boxcar Children when I
Mhm.
discovered them. Um,
So I am old enough to be your teacher then.
okay.
So
Yes,
that
yes, the
just
Boxcar
we'll get
Children
the
was in my elementary school.
yeah.
Um, and like so okay, as you're getting older, like did you know that you wanted to teach literature or you wanted to teach English language skills?
So I knew I wanted to teach.
Mm,
And in fact, it was because of the teachers that I had. And when I first started teaching in the mid 90s, I started in the school that I went to. So my first grade teacher was my principal. So she taught me how to read and then taught me how to teach. And one of the things I realized early on was I was really good, generally speaking, at reading and writing. Um, Writing, not as much, but reading definitely. And so I found that when we're really good at something, it's actually harder to teach because we don't quite know our process. Like if we didn't struggle with something, we don't know how to work out struggle.
mhm.
And so I realized that literacy instruction was a problem of practice for me. And I just dove deep into the many resources that I'm lucky to have being right across the river from Manhattan. And also, there was a boom in educational books that really taught us how to teach literacy in general. And so I just soaked them up, and it made me stronger as a teacher and as a person, and just made me fall in love, honestly, with that. And it became the center of my passion in my career.
Teachers, the way that they shape future teachers, I mean, I think there's so much there because yes, I mean, without my literature teachers and humanities teachers, I don't know if I would have been so inspired to like pursue a college professor route.
Mm,
And because at the time I was in college, I was also doing like organic chem and like there was this whole period where I was going to be a double major with chemistry and English and then that got
wow.
a little convoluted with classes. But again, like my passion was always humanities. And again, I think like you said, it was your individual mind, but it was also what you were shaped by in the education process. And like a film that I find really speaks to what you're talking about, Patty, is Matilda, because comes out in the 90s, right? You're teaching in the 90s. The scene with like her at the library is so foundational. She's absorbing, Herman Melville and like King Arthur, just classics. But then she has Miss Honey, who's such a nurturing, empowering teacher. But in the same building is the Trunchbull,
Yeah.
who is horrible
Right.
and, really authoritarian as a,
Mhm.
I guess, educator, we could
Yeah.
call her. Um, so like, with the way that literacy rates, I mean, it's looking at these statistics to prepare. It says that 21% of adults in the US are illiterate. That right there just makes me very full of despair. But then
It's
54% of adults have a literacy below sixth grade level. 54%.
mhm.
Like
Yeah.
the majority of adults can only read at below a sixth grade level. So like I'm sure, you know the research, but what's going on, Patty? Like is why are our literacy rates in America? I mean, that's such a big question, but
Mhm.
why are they so low?
Yeah, I have lots of reasons for it, and it becomes just a perfect storm.
Mm,
Um, I want to start with that teaching is an unattractive profession,
mm,
and it's only gotten worse. Like currently, the amount of expectation on teachers for virtually everything, and it changes from community to community, but it's still a job that has so many facets to it
mm,
that it's hard for one person to actually be proficient in all of those things all of the time. And I feel like our institutions that get us ready for it, it's something, but this profession is so complex, and yet it's seen as something so simple because, as they always say, like, well, we went to school, so therefore we know what it's like to be a teacher. And it's so complex. And the way that doctors have so much education, and they continue with that, and between their residencies and their fellowships, and this constant, I don't want the pressure that doctors have on teachers, but I would really like to see that continuous learning and input into the profession, along with, for goodness sake, just some modicum of collective respect for the profession. I mean,
mm,
where I live, um, years ago, the governor said that we can no longer buy bagels, or it wasn't bagels, he said specifically, but we can't buy food for, say, a teacher's, I don't know, event of some sort. If it's like Teacher Appreciation Day, like we're not allowed to spend money on certain parts of well-being for teachers,
mm,
and salaries are going down, and like money for professional learning is also going down, and programs right now are starting to replace the authentic instruction that is necessary to really support literacy and becoming literate. And then our schools, and people will disagree with me,
mm,
are very significantly underfunded. That because we have this property tax that is then being used to pay for schools, in some places when they have lots of businesses um, and other ways to get some money, there's a little bit more wiggle room. But in those places that don't, very rural places, very isolated places, there really isn't a lot of money that pay for teachers, pay for materials, really give what the kids need. And in these past 2 years, that money has been very unpredictable. At this time last year, the funding was not released as it should have been. And it was like $7 billion. And there, I know that sounds very current, but this is what it's been building up to. This
mhm.
has been the challenge.
Yeah, it's a pressure cooker. I
Mhm.
mean, everything is overflowing. The pot
Yeah,
is everything's just spouting out. I mean,
exactly.
And what you're talking about is backed up by the National Literacy Institute. That's where I'm getting these statistics that like the impact of a student who struggles with literacy really impacts. It says struggling readers suffer socially, they suffer emotionally, that almost 70% of low-income fourth grade students cannot read at a basic level. Like how the access to literature, but to how it even impacts those who are lower income. Like, and I'm even reading it impacts those on the it impacts the prison industrial complex. I mean, this really makes me sick to my stomach, actually. It says to determine how many prison beds will be needed in future years. Some states actually base part of their projection on how well current elementary students are performing on reading tests. Like, take a beat for that, everyone listening or watching, that 3 out of 5 people in American prisons can't read. And in order some states to determine how many prison beds they're going to have, they actually are looking to elementary school students at their rates on test scores to then determine and project, oh, how many may end up in prison. I mean, why aren't we addressing the root issue of literacy rates at a young age instead of like projecting how many will end up in the prison system? Looking for summer reads, the Gay and Lesbian Review, a bi-monthly magazine that features arts and culture conversations about the LGBT community, has you covered. The July and August issue is all about summer getaways and artists. So, for example, there are articles about David Hockney. There's an article about the sculpture in Central Park that some of you, if you've seen Angels in America, definitely recognize, by Emma Stebbins. So I can't wait for you all to get your hands on this issue. As always, there are TV reviews, film reviews, book reviews, theater reviews. So if you just don't know where to begin with LGBTQ literature, this is a great magazine to inspire you to add more books to your to-be-read pile. I love the Gay and Lesbian Review, and I'm so happy because I have a promo code for you. Go to glreview.org and get the print subscription or the digital subscription and put in ITBR choice for a free issue of the magazine.
This episode is brought to you by Facebook. So you were scrolling on Marketplace, and there it was, the bike you'd been searching for. You sent a message, and it turned out the seller was super chatty, kind of funny, and an avid cyclist. The next thing you know, you're in a cycling crew. Well, a community cycling group. The thing about Facebook, you might find more than what you're looking for. From a browse to a bike ride, this summer find more on Facebook.
Hello?
Look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
The Devil Wears Prada 2 is now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
We are digital, we are downloadable, we are streamable.
The fashion event of the year is certified fresh.
Pull yourself together. We have work to do.
Critics say it's smart and witty and the perfect sequel.
That's all.
Get runway ready for The Devil Wears Prada 2 on Disney Plus and Hulu. Rated PG-13.
Welcome to Severed, a podcast suite dropping new episodes every Monday. Severed True Crime and Severed Paranormal episodes deep dive into murder, mysteries, and the otherworldly in a concise format. A 7-minute story to frame the case with thoughtful analysis and our usual banter.
We sometimes find the lighter side of darker cases. We offer 3 spin-off shows, Severed Strange Stories, Severed Haunted You, and Severed Serial Killers that highlight the unusual to lighthearted topics from the digital dumpsters of true crime, haunted universities, and the minds of madness like Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer.
We are your co-hosts. I'm Harry Chambers.
And I'm Drew Hudson. Listen on all major podcast platforms, including Rogue Media Network and Radio Garden State. Follow us on Instagram at severed_podcast.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the obvious answer to that, and I highly recommend looking at Brian Stevenson's work, and if possible, visiting his legacy sites. There is a direct line from prison, education, backing up into voting rights, backing up into Jim Crow, backing up into slavery. And it is a lineage that has brought this now literacy rate that is abysmal, because the bottom line is racism.
Yes. An attack, right, on the lower class, attack, like you said, on people of color. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise. It's not a surprise to you, I'm sure, but that the top 3 states who have the highest literacy rates are Massachusetts, Maryland, New Hampshire. The bottom are Louisiana, Mississippi, and New Mexico. And it says 44% of American adults do not read a book in a year. And then even you would think, oh, maybe college students, that will improve. But it says nearly half of college-age people don't read for pleasure, and that's from the National Endowment for the Arts. So you would think, college students, they must be reading, but...
Yeah, I don't even think they're reading what they're supposed to be reading for class. John Mulaney, I don't know if you know him, the comedian. It's worth looking up. Yeah, he talks about like graduating from college and people congratulating him, and he's like, inside his head, you're congratulating me on faking reading. Like, it was just, he was like, it's a great bit, because there really are very few people who read cover to cover the books and the resources that are given to them. It's also, as we talk about like the underserved population, there's a certain level of background knowledge that schools today expect kids to come with. And I often refer to this background knowledge as expensive background knowledge, that you need to have somebody who brings you to the library, somebody who's going to bring you to museums. You go on trips, you experience the world, you follow a passion that you are, whatever you're into. My oldest son was history. My youngest was marine mammals. And like, it costs money to have and build that type of background knowledge, but that's what schools consider knowledge. When we're underserved and we do not have the resources, it's not that we come as a blank slate. We come with background knowledge. We come with life experience. It's just not the quote unquote school ready background knowledge.
And like, I know in the UK, they make a, big deal out of, in England, like how much social class has affected education rates. And in America, I feel like there's this narrative that's really, and I'm going to definitely read for everyone, Brian Stevenson, who Patty mentioned, the book Just Mercy, A Story of Justice and Redemption. And also I would add Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow book as well. And in America, I feel like we get this narrative that's like, social class doesn't impact, like, it's that American dream mythology that, social class doesn't determine where you end up. As you could tell with the statistics I read, erroneous, but also, as a New Jerseyan looking at the top 10 public school districts, I don't think it's a coincidence that they end up being the highest income areas. Princeton, Milburn, Chatham, like, what do they all have in common? And then those districts, yes, they can send children to the Metropolitan Art Museum. I mean, I was in, South Jersey in my district. I was so grateful. I was in a humanities middle school program where, we went to the University of Penn, the Egyptian Museum of Archaeology, the art museum, but like that I know is not the mainstream experience in America. And I also wonder, I want to go back to this quote you said, Patty, because I think it was so found important. You said that so many teachers, like, um, you said something about how to work out struggle, like that a lot of teachers, um, who do teach their discipline don't have to necessarily work that out for themselves, the struggle of it. And I kind of do wonder, like, how important you think it is for teachers to be vulnerable and to be open. Like, oh, I don't know that. Let's look it up together. Like moments of experiential learning where they actually admit, let's do this all together as a class because I don't have that knowledge and I want to use this as an opportunity for us to build. Or like even when I say to my students, I get writer's block. I have to work through it. Let's figure out how we can work through writer's block together. Like why that vulnerability might be important. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
But we'll start maybe with these unsaid expectations of teachers that they're supposed to be the knowledge holders of all things. And that's just absurd. I mean, no human can do that. And therefore, why put that expectation on the very people who are educating your children? It's really, it's not very, it's not talked about very much that we do this, but it's just part of the culture that we have that expectation. So teachers who were students once with that belief grow up to be teachers who believe that that's what they're supposed to be. And when we do that, number one, outside of the classroom, we're less likely to be open to continued learning ourselves. Meaning, if we can say, I have a problem with practice and then find ways, and ideally a school district would provide ways of learning within that problem of practice without shame, but with lots of resources, including other people, that there would be a great increase in instructional practice skill. And then within the classroom, if there is this framework, I guess, where we're believing that the teacher is the holder of the knowledge and they're like a giant teapot and they are pouring their knowledge into the little teacups that are sitting around them, it isn't really what true learning is. Like learning in school doesn't match learning outside of school. Like when I learn something outside of school, I get curious. I hypothesize, ooh, what could happen here? I seek out experts. I play around with these concepts. I look for feedback. I memorize things, yes, but that's not the only thing I do. And I reflect on what I've learned and also get curious about what I haven't. And that is what human learning is all about. And where is that systematically in education?
Yeah, you're kind of saying like there's this theory that happens or the traditional expectation of like in higher education, the theory realm, and then there's the real lived experience as right outside of the classroom. And like this is why I think public humanities or just public facing education, right? How do you bring them together? And there is a bridge. I just like even my experience, Patty, like the obstacles that I would come up against during my PhD experience where I'm like, well, I want to do an event at a library. I want to, talk to the public. I want to not just become a specialist, even though, yes, my dissertation is mostly focused on Whitman and his queer poetics. I'm not like, I don't just brand myself as the Whitman expert because I discuss LGBTQ literature. I go into different realms of mythology. But I will say, Patty, there is this narrative during a PhD program, where there are still the quote unquote traditional, the experts where they'll say, well, I only know this author. And I'm thinking, but wait, you're teaching world literature. You're teaching, to freshmen intro to literature. How, if you just pigeonhole yourself into, I'm the expert of this, is that going to open the door to the students to feel like they can explore and that you're also bringing in, literature and authors who you're discovering for the first time. Some of my favorite things to do, Patty, is to teach a novel or a short story I've never taught and never read. And I tell that to my students. I'm like, this is my first time. And sometimes I'll even wait to read it with them in class, and we'll go do the popcorn method around and just read. And I think sometimes it's not that, of course, I love Whitman, but sometimes it's hard. Like you've said, it's hard when I have to teach something that I'm very indebted to, because I see it from a very certain perspective. And yes, I love that. What you're just saying, I think that it's so have you seen, is there a move, or, maybe this is even why you've gone into, becoming a literacy consultant. How do we get out of that box that's been created that almost feels like the root of the issue is not feeling like teachers, feel like they can explore? Why does anything exist? Why is there something rather than nothing? I think that's a question we all, as curious people, have asked ourselves. And let me tell you, Professor Stephen A. Simon's new book is so thought-provoking that I can't wait for you all to pick it up. He provides his experience as a professor of political science and philosophy to explore that question with such a variety of perspectives, from science, religion, philosophy, and even mathematics. He helps us understand what could possibly explain the most fundamental fact of all, that anything exists. So you can get this from broadviewpress.com. The floodgates have opened with science fiction as a genre in my life because I owe this to my husband, and I'm going to give him credit. He has really gotten me to think more about sci-fi, film, and literature. I have to say, Minority Report, absolutely amazing. And Alien, I mean, who doesn't love that alien coming out of that human body in the first film? So Professor Jason Haslam's new anthology provides a lot of exploration with all different short fiction, so many sci-fi authors, over 200 years, including sci-fi that explores indigenous futurism, feminist science fiction, Afrofuturism. Again, you can get this on broadviewpress.com. And last but not least, my upcoming episode with Professor Matthew James Vachinsky explores his book, which is Original Inquiry, A Guide to Research for Undergraduates, a great toolkit for all faculty out there who are just trying to find a book that helps their students understand how to collect research sources and then, right, the hardest part, build and organize their essay with all of these sources and to make a cohesive argument. I can't recommend Original Inquiry highly enough. So again, all three books can be found on broadviewpress.com. Use the promo code Ivory Tower for 20% off.
Are you a fan of classic Hollywood movies?
Are you a fan of queer cinema?
Then do we have the podcast for you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christian Garcia.
And I'm Luke Del Mar.
And we are your hosts of That Old Gay Classic Cinema, where we take a look at some of the greatest films of all time and analyze them through a queer theoretical lens.
This episode is brought to you by Facebook. So you were scrolling on Marketplace, and there it was, the bike you'd been searching for. You sent a message, and it turned out the seller was super chatty, kind of funny, and an avid cyclist. The next thing you know, you're in a cycling crew. Well, a community cycling group. The thing about Facebook, you might find more than what you're looking for. From a browse to a bike ride, this summer find more on Facebook.
Hello?
Look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
The Devil Wears Prada 2 is now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
We are digital, we are downloadable, we are streamable.
The fashion event of the year is certified fresh.
Pull yourself together. We have work to do.
Critics say it's smart and witty and the perfect sequel.
That's all.
Get runway ready for The Devil Wears Prada 2 on Disney Plus and Hulu. Rated PG-13.
Let's be honest. LGBTQIA plus people have been a part of Hollywood since its inception, and this podcast celebrates those artists and entertainers of yesteryear while also taking a closer look at the queer-coded characters and stories in classic Hollywood films long before queer representation entered the mainstream.
So follow us down the road of classic cinema as we give you a guide to some of the films that touched our hearts, brains, and even gave us courage to be ourselves.
You can listen to That Old Gay Classic Cinema wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
All right, listeners, we're ready for our close-up.
Yes. Well, I think it's a mindset shift, and there's a lot of minds to shift. So it takes more than a village. But one simple shift that I feel like we can make, and I wrote about this in a blog post a couple of years ago, is that instead of thinking about what I know as a teacher, whatever that expert area is, think about what did I do to become expert in that area? And then give students those opportunities. So to become expert in writing instruction, I was certainly not. And it's also because schools for teachers don't teach us how to teach writing. You know, I had to try certain things out. I had to ask the kids, did that help or not? I had to read lots of books about writing instruction. I had to have people come and watch me and give me ideas. Like, these are all different experiences that over time added up to, now I know a lot more about writing and grammar instruction. But if I just stood there and I said to everybody, here's what you do, now just do what I did. Like, you know, it's not giving the experience. It's just like, again, the teapot into the teacup kind of experience. But instead, if we as educators say, how did I become expert in this? What were the experiences that I had to become expert in this? And then let's give those entry points into this topic, this book, this content area for students of all ages to be able to learn it.
Yes, continued education, and like you're saying, just what you're saying, Patty, about shifting that mindset away from like, I'm the expert, to how did I learn this, is like so interesting, because I feel like my favorite moments now are the research process with my students. Because you're right, like, how did I learn about, you know, LGBTQ theory? Well, I had to go on a JSTOR. I had to learn about university library database searching. I, you know, had to dig into I went to different libraries, like the Morgan Library. I found collections. I mean, and to show students that, oh, all it takes is I bring them to the college university library and I like let them go off and try to find books relevant to their topic, and then they bring them back to me and we go through them. Like, is this a good source or is this not going to help you? And it's like, I think those on the ground experiences to me are as important, if not more important, than you know, the actual in class. I mean, it is in class, but you know what I'm saying? I think it's as important as us digging into an analysis of a poem that we're discussing in the classroom. And again, I mean, I'm very, which I think you're probably in agreement, against lecture-based teaching. And I really think like seminar-based teaching is the more empowering for students. But again, I think it's a little nerve-wracking. Like, have you talked with, I'm sure you have, with educators who don't know where to begin, and they're nervous because they have to shift that mindset and they're just overwhelmed because there's so much.
Yes.
Where like the lecture actually can feel very safe because it's like, well, all I have to do is prepare my slides and I know that I'll go in and this is what we're going to do.
Yes, 100%. And one of the things that I share with teachers is a quote from someone that I got my master's with. And she said, "I'm a really good teacher till the kids get involved." And it's just like, yes, that exactly, like we plan, but it's never going to go as planned if we are doing all of the talking. It's just like, it's just not. So we need to think of teaching as a cycle or even a zigzag, where we're planning based on what we know from the last time we interacted with our students. And then we teach, and then we adjust, and then we plan again on the spot very often because we're adjusting. And then that informs what we plan. But if we're going to be in the lecture mode, which I just want to say, little bits of lecture, like I crave them, I need them, but it's when it's I do all the talking and you do all the listening is when it's really just not that successful. So if we can embrace the fact that learning is cyclical at the very least, zigzaggy at most often, that kind of mind shift can be very helpful.
Yes, yes. So like, yeah, a good example is when I taught the survey of British literature, I do like a little mini lecture about the historical foundation of like Beowulf, for example, right? Because the Old English period, there's certain things that feel so removed. But then like I found YouTube videos that like YouTube content or YouTube book creators like who are younger did that like were engaging as well, and like creating a depository of resources. Like I love creating in a discussion board resources that the class can share. Like, you want to learn more? Here's this podcast or that. And like having each, like breaking the students up into groups to then explore that outside of the classroom and then bring their the insight that they learned into the class for the next session we meet. I think, because I know there's some who educators who don't believe in like cold calling, but the way like I do think it matters during class, like if there's something to look up, I'll say, you know, okay, Suzanne, can you look this up? And because students, especially in college, the interaction with their cell phones can feel so tempting. And I feel like when they know, oh, Professor Rimby, we have to be ready. Like, not to be embarrassed, but he's going to want us to like contribute something. I do think in a fully lecture class, I've heard, oh, my students are all on their cell phone. And I'm thinking to myself, well, and I ask, do you ask the students to get involved? Because again, like they shouldn't be on their cell phone, but also how tempting is it going to be when you don't think your knowledge is going to be tested or you're going to contribute something to the conversation?
Right, absolutely. And the word conversation, I think, is part of the secret sauce. It is something that is so simple and yet so powerful. So if we are lecturers and we're looking to make a slight shift away from that, very simply have kids in groups of 3 or 2. When we go to 4, we end up in like just like dinner tables, like 2 and 2. And just ask them to talk about what we just said. Like, just say, now, what are you thinking about this portrayal of this particular critic on this character? Agree or disagree, and why? And when they have the chance to talk to someone else, that engages the social brain and that allows others, and it's free, doesn't cost a thing, and it's so simple to do, but to have kids talk to each other in all of the grade levels, in everything, that is allowing not just knowledge to be built, but unique perspectives and ideas coming from that knowledge.
Yes. And I'm sure you're familiar with Paulo Freire. Like my eyes were so open with his pedagogical theory, bell hooks. Teaching to Transgress is like my favorite text. But when Paulo Freire countered that idea of like the banking model, which is the metaphor where students are like the containers and teachers just deposit knowledge into students' minds.
Right.
Like, to me, that's the trap. Like, he even calls it a type of trap where if a teacher thinks I just need to deposit, like, it's that whole like memorization base. Like, I mean, how many of us remember in high school or grade school where we just had to memorize, and then, if you weren't really being asked any critical thinking outside of the memorization, goodbye.
Yeah.
Like, it's gone. Like, it almost just
Exactly.
feels like it never happened after the test. So like, I'm curious, Patty, when people come to you for your consulting work, like, what excites you? Like, what are some things that have just been eye-opening moments that you've truly loved?
Yeah. The moments that I've truly loved are those moments when a district or teachers say, here's what's going on, and I don't know what to do right now. So I can just speak to a week-long institute that I gave just recently. And the principal came to me back in January and said, my teachers are saying they feel stagnant. They don't, they're engaging with the curriculum, but it just feels old and tired, and they feel just tired of it, and they want something more. And then I create a learning plan around that, knowing, because it's happened before, knowing that what we'll do is going to make that difference. And the outcomes of that is the reason, pardon me, that is the reason why I do what I do. It's just like, you see teachers light up like, oh my gosh, I can see this. I can picture my kids loving this. I can see how this is different. I'm still, complying to the curriculum or the standards, but this is something I've never thought about before, but I can use it, and it's simple. And it is going to be, they're envisioning the possibilities. That's really where the best work lies, is let's start with, what are we curious about, or what is a problem of practice, or what is making us feel stuck right now?
Yeah, I love this is why I think consulting, like, people, again, I think another thing, the general public, when they hear consultant, they're just like, sounds kind of dry, but no, like you're saying, there's a problem that you address. There's a plan, an individual plan you create around it. And, you have a whole collaboration. And again, I think collaboration, like, is something that in education, especially I think as it gets maybe after, like K to fifth, I think there's a lot of collaboration, but I think when it gets into, middle school, high school, into definitely college, I would say in college, it's hard to really find collaboration. Like, I'm really going to start trying in the fall, bringing in like a guest teacher, professor to like talk about their interests and topic. And I think, again, it just creates this shared community.
It does.
Yeah, and I think we definitely need more. I mean, I was also curious with your book, Not Your Granny's Grammar, like, you're definitely countering an old school traditional view of grammar there. Like, what's exciting, and what do you hope readers take away from your book?
Yes. Well, first, I hope they take away from my book that the way that we've thought about grammar for a very long time. Um, I mean, I start with a quote from the 1600s that said, all the world's problems could be solved with grammar. I'm paraphrasing.
This episode is brought to you by Facebook. So you were scrolling on Marketplace, and there it was, the bike you'd been searching for. You sent a message, and it turned out the seller was super chatty, kind of funny, and an avid cyclist. The next thing you know, you're in a cycling crew. Well, a community cycling group. The thing about Facebook, you might find more than what you're looking for. From a browse to a bike ride, this summer find more on Facebook.
Hello?
Look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
The Devil Wears Prada 2 is now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
We are digital, we are downloadable, we are streamable.
The fashion event of the year is certified fresh.
Pull yourself together. We have work to do.
Critics say it's smart and witty and the perfect sequel.
That's all.
Get runway ready for The Devil Wears Prada 2 on Disney Plus and Hulu. Rated PG-13.
And that's the same thing people are saying today. So I really am looking for, first of all, a shift in what grammar is. Instead of just a set of rules that one needs to comply to, that it's actually the equivalent to a painter's paintbrush, that grammar is to writing, or grammar is to a writer as a paintbrush is to a painter, and that we are ever evolving in our use of that. No artist feels finished when it comes to their art, and they're always learning different ways of and techniques and different brushes and brush strokes and how those combine together. And you can see that evolution in artists that we admire. And grammar is the same. It's a tool for communication. It's a tool for connection and clarity. And grammar changes dependent upon the situation. Obviously, if you're writing something for a college class, there are standards and those are the expectations. But if you're writing something that is peer facing, it's not the same type of grammar. That there are buckets and they also influence each other. So there's community grammar. Those are the words that we use in our families, in our communities, wherever we live, in whatever part of the country, and the sorts of things we engage in. And that's so beautiful. And I think we don't give it as a society enough value, because it really is just a work of art, how different communities use and create their own grammar. For example, when my oldest son was 3, he was dropped off for the birthday party at our house that I was planning, and he comes hopping up the path going, I hear. And obviously that's not correct grammar, but we still say that. And we're adults and it's, I hear. So like there's community grammar, and then there's book grammar. And like the way you love Whitman, you know, he's not looking at the grammar standards and saying, am I complying to everything that is standard grammar right now? Instead, he's saying, I'm thinking of an audience and how I'm going to connect with them through clarity. And then there's standard grammar, where in more formal situations, we need to comply by that. So it all depends on our audience. But to think that there's only one set of grammar rules that everyone must follow is underestimating the power of what grammar can provide.
Yeah. And the works of art that stick with us, or the ones I think that speak out to us, are the ones where they're breaking the rules and the genre conventions. And, you know, yes, they know the foundation.
Yeah.
And then they're able to break the rules. And that's why, like, right, I always say, you know, use I. If you want to use I in a formal writing, use it, but know you have to be ready to know why you're breaking, not breaking, but why you're using it. right?
Mhm.
What's the intention here? And like even, I know we're nearing the end, but I wanted to also get into just Patty, what you're saying here, it reminds me about what you're doing in your book, in your just consulting, your life, your work, is also countering this idea of like shame-based learning, where
Mhm.
when I know all of us have been in a situation in a classroom where we can remember you're reading out loud and the teacher, instead of like letting you try to get through a word, is like just jumps in and is like, no, this is how you say it. Instead of like just teaching, well, why are you correcting that? Like, what is the pronunciation? Like making it into a learning lesson instead of like embarrassing the
Yes.
student. And I think maybe is that a reason why there's a lot who graduate who are nervous to read or nervous to public speak because
Mhm.
they engaged in a moment where they were shamed.
100%. And I want to say that is one of the reasons why Tim and I wrote this book
Mm,
was we're trying to think of like another subject that carries as much shame as grammar does. So teachers who don't feel comfortable with grammar because they didn't learn it in the way that was the traditional method of worksheet correction, drills, and memorizations of parts of speech, diagramming sentences. Not to say any of that is wrong, it's just not the only way. And the majority of us did not learn grammar that way. And so we feel uncomfortable teaching it. But there's shame around that because we have colleagues wearing t-shirts that say grammar police, carrying mugs that say, I'm silently correcting your grammar.
mm,
And when you're a student and you're learning grammar and all you're getting in response is a correction, that doesn't help us learn it. Instead, we can remove the shame by creating multiple entry points, just like I was talking about before. Like what do we do to learn something? And let's bring that into writing, let's bring that into grammar. And so this approach we have is one where there's hypothesizing about grammatical concepts and some explicit teaching, and then lots of play. No games where there's a winner and loser, because that's just bringing shame back in, because the loser is always going to be the kid who doesn't know it.
mhm,
um, so, thinking about shame, is it Tom Newkirk, I think, that wrote Embarrassment, which is an excellent book. I
mm.
think it's right over my head because it's orange. And what that role is in learning and how it can really put the brakes on engaging in a way that's fruitful for both teachers and students.
Oh, I'm gonna get that book. And I think also, right, there's some of the traditional pedagogy or those who
Mhm.
practice that, which again, I don't think neither of us are saying stop, like,
Mhm.
uh, stop doing everything you've been doing,
Yeah,
right? Like you
right.
said, it's a mind shift. And even if it's just incorporating one
Hmm.
activity that's just a little outside the box, right?
Yeah.
You're at least now you're engaging with a different learning style.
Yes.
And right, and no one is saying don't correct, right? Because I know there's some who are like, oh, you're being too soft on this generation, right? We've heard those critics, which I think is just a bunch of nonsense. But it's like, yes, you can correct. It's the way you go about it. It's how you make it into like if I correct a student on um like I let them get through the word and through the whole passage and then I'm like, "Oh, this word means is this and this is what it
Hmm.
means."
Hmm.
But I also correct myself.
Mm.
Like if I'm like, "Wait, what I just told you all, I just looked it up. That's not right information. I need to make an addendum right now."
Hmm.
It's like, "Oh, even the like, right?
Yeah.
The expert doesn't know it all."
Yeah.
And to be honest about that because students
Mhm.
really trust the teachers who are honest and reflective with their
Yes.
practice.
Absolutely. And also, there is a very simple alternative to correction that is actually more fruitful, where we simply say, here's something you did that was strong.
Yeah.
And I want you to know that strength so you can hold on to it. That rarely happens. And now, because of that, you are ready for this.
Yes. That's wow,
Like
that's really powerful, Patty.
Yes.
Instead of like that whole red pen, like I'm gonna
Yes.
Yeah, red pens.
Mhm.
I
It
mean,
takes a lot of time for the teacher to do
yes.
that. And then it doesn't teach how to do it any differently. It's
No,
like, let's
and the students are not reading through each of your comments.
no. And if they are, they're not coming up to you and being like, so could you show me how to next time make sure that I do not have a dangling modifier? Like it's
No.
just not gonna happen. If it happens, it's once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we just go with, because you're doing this, you're ready for this. And
Yeah, you built the steps for them.
Mhm.
And yeah, just like, being ready to, as a child, when they're ready to swim in the deep end or take off, the swimmies.
Right.
Or, so something I just wanted to end with, Patty, was the idea of empathy. Like, how do you weigh into about like empathy as a teaching practice?
Yes. Well, there are many ways that we can use empathy to strengthen our teaching. One of the ways, just in terms of instructional practice, is to literally in our minds, and this is what empathy is, picture ourselves in the shoes of that particular student that might be having a struggle. So let's say, okay, I am teaching 6th grade, and I am noticing that this particular student is struggling with paragraphs. Now I'm going to picture myself as a 6th grader with a piece of writing that doesn't have paragraphs. What would I do as a 6th grader to create paragraphs in this writing? That's what I'm going to teach them. Instead of, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do that and you need paragraphs. That's not empathetic. That's just telling everybody what's wrong. And it's not to say we're not going to share what can be improved. It's just to say, when we do so from a place of, oh, I feel where you are and I know how to make paragraphs, because at one point I didn't.
Yeah.
And even if we can't remember, we think, because it's empathetic, we think, oh, okay, what would I do here to make sure there's paragraphs? I mean, that's just one random example, but I think it's the process of picturing yourself as that particular student. And the better we know them, the better we can empathize with them. Like, we know that they're coming from a place where it's a home where there's a lot of arguing, let's say. And so they're already feeling a little on edge about people around them. So we know that. And now that becomes part of what we're going to teach and how we're going to say it, because that's part of that empathy.
Yeah.
I think it's crucial.
Yeah. No, thank you, Patty. And like right? Children carry their home life into the classroom. And that student who you think, I mean, my mom has her master's in special education, so she taught me a lot too when I was growing up. But if they're disruptive, something's going on, right? Like, that's why I think when they find that teacher who gets to know them on a level, again, not saying you need to be their friend, because I think that could be a problem, but when you see each student as a unique person who has different ways to engage, and you get to know them on an individual level, wow, it just opens up so many doors. And again, if they're doing something that is disruptive, I'm not saying, yeah, let them, throw a book at a student, but there's there's a way to understand, especially with trying to just figure out like why, and again, this isn't just with the teacher, but hopefully the district has, like you're saying, districts come to you and they're really trying to have you come up with a practice and an individual profile that can help address concerns that are going on. Like, it's why it's so important that there is an integrated method, like whether it's through right, the guidance counselors, with the teachers, with like a teacher shouldn't feel like they're on their own island. There needs to be a team in place.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Patty, this has been amazing. I need to have you back on. I was actually thinking maybe we'll have to do like in my Teaching the Humanities series, maybe I need to now have films that deal with teachers, you know, in the classroom, and like I'll bring on each of the, you know, you're definitely included to like
Thank you.
analyze the film and like with your experience discuss it through that lens. I'm even thinking Matilda would be a really interesting
Yes,
film to
it
choose.
would. It would, absolutely. And I'd also, because my first book was about ways that we can give feedback that go along with that framework that I just shared.
Yeah.
Not to say we never correct, but if it's the only thing we're doing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. If
I
you're
found
like
an
just
alternative.
the teacher wagging your finger the whole
Yeah.
time,
Mhm.
students are afraid.
Yes.
Like, you know, it's like a military boot camp.
Right.
That doesn't make you feel calm
Exactly.
at all. Well, Patty, how can everyone please find you? You know, if they are looking for your services, access your book. I know you have a great website, so
Thank you.
share it, please.
Yes, I love my website designer. It's not me, and she just has made it a wonderful place to browse. But it's pattymcgee.org, and Patty is with a Y, which is important because if you look up Patty with an I, that gets you to a very famous skateboarder from the 1960s.
Oh.
So not the same work. So pattymcgee.org is my website, and you can contact me through there. You can see lots of resources that I have available. There's downloads. There's lots of goodies.
Thank you so much, Patty. And yes, you know, this will be one, you know, of many conversations that we'll have.
I hope so.
Yes, yes. Very synchronicity has been built.
Yes.
Thanks for all you're
sure.
doing, Patty. It is so important in this
Oh,
world.
well, thank you for having me on here to talk about it.